We did not understand. We could not. How could we, or anyone, truly understand? By all accounts, it makes no sense. Who would choose such a fate? Who could cast the dice when the odds are so clearly against them? Who would risk the fate of an entire species on something so unnecessary? Who would choose to live upon a death world? It has been 40 years since humanity was discovered in the depths of the Keebler Void. At the time, they were considered a marvel. When news of the first ever Class 14 death world reached the censors of the citizens of the Galactic Union, every channel and media outlet was lit aflame. The scientific community exploded. There were nearly 2 decades of debate concerning whether it truly classified as Class 14. But eventually, the inflammatory remarks of those who opposed the classification cooled down. When the shock of a scenario once thought impossible passed, sound voices won out. Earth was the first ever Class 14 death world, the single deadliest life-bearing planet in the entire galaxy. Naturally, the crew that discovered it received a slurry of awards, commendations, and the like. For a brief time, they were celebrities, but unfortunately, they did not manage to ride the wave of their surge in popularity for very long. That planet was just about the only interesting thing in the entire Keebler Void. After years of nothing new coming from this veteran crew, the people had forgotten about them. But no one forgot about Earth, about the Class 14 death world which harbored sapient life, an intelligent civilization of thinking beings that survived against all odds. It was a household name, the preeminent example used when anyone needed or wanted to speak of death worlds. For a time, Earth-like was used as a sarcastic joke whenever someone had a complaint about an environment, atmosphere, or anything. Likewise, human became a symbolic term evoking the highest possible level of endurance and durability, with a handful of engineering organizations using the term human grade for their newest models of space vessels or architectural designs. But such fads fell out of fashion by the 4th decade. Galactic Union Standard Time, of course. By the time measurements of those living upon that wretched world, it had been nearly 160 years. Normally, a strong quarantine would be issued to ensure no improper first contact scenarios. However, given the world's unique location and the general lack of availability of fold-core drives capable of traversing the void, such measures were never truly put in place. The void itself was quarantine enough, and despite the advice of the Breaking Dawn's lead science officer, the Union saw no value in setting up an observation post that deep in the void. The logistics required to maintain contact and supplies, including the regular use of a rare and powerful fold core, were simply too high a price. And besides, to them, the odds of humanity ever making it off that rock were slim to none. After all, traditional FTL technology was all but unusable in the void, and the fold core was a brand new, cutting-edge technology discovered only thanks to centuries of research and iteration upon such technology. Humanity, in all likelihood, would never get off that forsaken ball of ice and rock, or so the Union believed. Private Jocario, once again, has the unenviable task of watch duty. He truly is awful at photon, graviton, quark, but how was he to predict that graviton would lose 14 times in a row? Surely, at least once, they would shoot photon. Statistically, there are only 3 possibilities. He should have won at least a few times. But it did not matter now. He lost, and so for the 14th day in a row, he must spend his entire shift sitting here, watching a boring, never-changing sensor array on the off chance that anything changes in the vicinity around the station, a station deep in space, barely a single light-year from the Keebler Void, orbiting around the orphaned planetoid, a handful of light days from the nearest jump gate, a deep space gate specifically made for this station. Why did they even bother putting this station out here? Why do they bother forcing anyone to use this wretched sensor's post? Nothing changes here, nothing. There are no planetary anomalies if there are no planets. No gravitational anomalies when the Keebler void is 1 light-year away and the nearest actual star is nearly 20. Not even pirates come out this far, especially since there's nothing to hit out here but the small observation post. And with how far from the nearest gate it is, it could take days for them to make it here at the absolute fastest possible speed. Nigh impossible to speak upon. It's practically torture. Hours upon hours of sitting and doing nothing, with no one to speak to, since they're all busy with actually important duties like modulating the station's fusion core or maintaining military equipment. At the very least, Jocario is confident that he can use this time to get extra sleep, and chances are, no one will notice, nor care even if they did. Everyone, even the commanding officers, is well aware of how uneventful and, frankly, unimportant this task is. And so the private's eyes, slowly, Private Jocario lazily startles out of his slumber by the high-pitched chirps of the warning noises the sensor array is throwing. After a moment of confusion, his eyes snap to distinct and mortified attention. A ship. It's a ship. There's a ship out here? Is it pirates? Is it finally happening? He immediately sets to work compiling a warning report, collecting basic metrics about the incoming vessel. But none of it makes sense. It's traveling so slowly, unimaginably slowly. It would take some years for it to reach the station, and that's if its course was even in this direction. But the way it's traveling, there does not appear to be any kind of destination. More perplexing still, it's coming from the Keebler void. How? Did some poor souls get caught? Is it a drone ship that went off course? Jocario does not know. And given that this is the first and probably only interesting thing that will ever happen to this station, he immediately reports to the station commander, despite protocol technically requiring he report to the section chief first. He makes the call to the bridge, using an urgency code so he isn't redirected to the section chief.
What is it, Private Jocario? I swear to Glop, if this is another one of your bored pranks, I will find something even more torturous for you to do.
Commander Kilno snaps, clearly agitated to a great degree. Jocario may or may not have a history of making this station infinitely more fun to be on. But alas, no one seems to appreciate all the effort he goes through to brighten up their boring lives.
Actually, Commander, it isn't. Not this time.
The private begins.
So, you admit those were pranks?
The commander retorts venomously. Jocario stammers at his mistake.
Well, no, but I mean, never mind that. This one is real. It's a ship, not a pirate ship or a distress signal or a new species ship. Well, actually, I guess it could be that last one. I don't really know. The metrics are a bit vague. Private Jocario, a proper report, please. If you're going to actually do your job for once, you'd better do it correctly.
Commander Kilno orders.
Yes, right away, sir.
Jocario begins again, and the commander is stunned to silence. Jocario listened for once. This is serious. He continues.
It appears to be an astonishingly large vessel, larger than anything the Union has ever built. It's also traveling slowly, incredibly slowly, a minute fraction of light speed, and it's accelerating at an even smaller fraction of that. It has no electromagnetic emissions besides thermal radiation, which means whatever propulsion system they're using is extremely narrowly focused and doesn't involve any manner of space warping. Initial spectroscopic scans haven't come back yet, but I doubt it's made of anything other than metal given the thermals. It's just a big floating hunk of metal, slowly accelerating in the void. No immediate obvious destination.
The commander waits for Jocario's report to conclude before asking a question somewhat sternly.
Where did it come from?
Jocario responds, his astonishment only slightly muted from when he initially looked at its trajectory.
That's the crazy thing, Commander. It came from the void, the Keebler void. The moment it cleared the interference zone, our sensors picked it up. Technically, it's still in there, but it should be reachable conventionally with a few weeks' trip.
Ah, there are the spectroscopes now.
It's made of an unknown alloy. Hints of various metals. Looks like mostly P26 and P22. traces of a half dozen others, and its structure is complex enough that the computer can't figure out what it is with only spectroscopy. Thank you, Private Jocario, for your report. Stay at attention. Watch the vessel for signs of any changes, and report immediately if it does anything other than continue to float in space. Commander Kilno responds, then closes a channel and sits in silence. Due to that having been the urgency frequency, the entire bridge heard the report as well as each section chief. Minutes pass in deafening quiet. It's the systems officer who shatters that quiet like glass. Do you think it... Quiet! Commander Kilno softly but somewhat forcefully cuts the officer off. I need to think. More minutes pass before the commander finally snaps the tension. Here's what we're going to do, communications officer. Take the private's report and compile a better worded one to send to Union High Command. Make sure to emphasize that this is an unknown vessel and that we'll need faster ships if we want to investigate it any faster than a few weeks. Also, make sure to emphasize that it appears non-hostile, but could be. We're most likely looking at first contact. We need diplomatic and linguistic specialists as soon as possible. Do you understand? Aye, Commander. Compiling. The communications officer replies, immediately setting to work. The commander shifts into an almost militaristic tone of voice and starts issuing commands at breakneck pace. Everyone else, we're going to stand up the entire station. You alert. All brakes are canceled and all hands to stations. We need to quadruple check that every single one of our systems is online and functioning at peak capacity. If this ship is hostile, we need to be ready for it. Double shifts. We need people working in all periods. Section chiefs, you know what your responsibilities are. Those are your orders. Get moving. Now! The entire station wakes to action. Alarm klaxons signal the shift to U alert, a secondary alert level just below Rev, requiring that all hands prepare for the possibility of combat. Many aboard are confused as to what's happening. Most believe the pirates have actually appeared for once, but rumors spread fast, and over the course of an hour, the entire station knows about the mysterious gargantuan vessel. No one is ignorant of what was discovered in the void 40 years ago, and while it seems impossible, rumors that it's the humans spread like wildfire. The commander issued a strict information quarantine, even going so far as to order the communications officer to forcibly shut down all outgoing quantum transmitters, besides that of the bridge to ensure that nothing leaks. Of course, this only lasts a couple of days. A stupid and naive private who had been a human conspiracy theorist for many years couldn't restrain themselves. They managed to jury-rig a scouting drone's micro-quantum transceiver into a makeshift amplification array. Also, they could send a message to a clutchmate saying, I was right, the humans got out. And as fate would have it, that message was intercepted by a cargo vessel that just so happened to be in the direct path of the transmission and received the graviton key sequence to tune their receiver to. The entire Union lit ablaze, a mysterious transmission from a Union starbase out near the void, saying that the humans got out. It could only mean one thing. Union intelligence agencies tried desperately to cover up, using misinformation campaigns, and of course, claiming that the transmission is a hoax or a joke. But the excitement that everyone felt over the idea of this legendary species becoming spacefaring was overwhelming. Real or not, hundreds of vessels began changing course towards the Keebler Void to Station outpost, Jubiclon. Fearing what might happen if first contact with an unknown civilization was made by hundreds of random civilian vessels, the Galactic Union Council felt they had little choice but to try and beat the masses to the punch. A fold-capable vessel is the only thing that could get there before the civilian vessels, even if it's on the other side of the galaxy. They were called the GUV Breaking Dawn from its latest mission on the galactic far sector, ordering them to return to the void, specifically to Station Outpost Jubiclon, to intercept the foreign vessel and initiate first contact. A prospect, of course, that elated the Breaking Dawn science and diplomatic officers who thankfully already had an extensive database of human language and culture from the vessel's first visit. Commander Tobler breathed a very, very deep sigh when he and his crew first took control of the Breaking Dawn It had felt like he'd been acquainted with the vessel for decades. Now, after decades of command, it feels to him strange, foreign. He's the only one from the original crew still on board. All the others had left not long after its maiden voyage, drunk on the fame of their legendary discovery. Only Tobler was interested in seeking new glory, however. The others used the wave of their celebrity to entrench themselves in other organizations. Nearly every scientist that was aboard is a part of some cutting-edge research group now. Most of the soldiers long retired to their paradise world of choice. He doesn't know about the rest. Hell, he hasn't spoken to any of the original crew in at least 20 years. But for Tobler, this ship was his paradise. Was. But it's been 40 years now. And every mission since the charting of the Keebler Void has been irrelevant, really. A couple of new primitive species, but nothing spectacular. Some novel worlds, many of them death worlds, yes, but nothing like Earth. Nothing that could give him the excitement he craved. He remembers those halcyon days, the entire ship abuzz with activity, conducting dozens of investigative missions, exploring every nook and cranny of that snowball, while its denizens remain blissfully unaware. Locked up in their cities, weathering the storms, the discoveries made there defined nearly every field of science for years. Creatures of sizes and shapes that were thought impossible, organic compounds that revolutionized medicine, unique alloys, some of them natural, some of them a part of the denizens' ruined and abandoned cities, to say nothing of the meteorological and cosmological data of that so very unique planet. The only question that was left unanswered was how the humans got there. According to the conclusions of the then science director, no sentient species could evolve on that planet. Life, to be certain, but not sentient life. It simply took too long for any meaningful amount of intellectual evolution to occur between the global ice ages. Intelligent creatures would be selected out as energy efficiency became the only important metric. And while brains were useful, they were not efficient until you got to the point of sentience and could abuse technological advantages to hunt. In theory, whenever an ice age struck, all creatures with significant intelligence would either be wiped out or devolve into less intelligent forms. Yet, humanity somehow persisted. More than that, they somehow persisted long enough to develop vast and highly complex structures and technologies. Although much of it was buried under the ice, humanity had clearly grown to encompass nearly their entire planet by the time the Ice Age struck. But it was fast, too fast. According to director Gerard, it was as if they'd started with a massive advantage in numbers and/or technology. Ultimately, Gerard's crackpot ideas are the source of most human-related conspiracies. He believes that humanity did not evolve on Earth, and instead came from somewhere else. But no one was willing to entertain his nonsensical ideas. What spacefaring species would ever choose to colonize a, from their perspective, Class 13 death world? Maybe an outpost, sure. But this Class 13 death world is in the middle of a giant anti-FTL void, and so far, the Galactic Union is the only sentient organization to have developed a way to travel at FTL within it. Who would be so utterly idiotic as to attempt to colonize a nigh unreachable planet that was so unimaginably deadly? Not to mention that humanity themselves were very clearly adapted to their environment. They even shared much of their DNA with most of their surrounding organisms. It simply didn't make any sense. But Gerard was so convinced that he cost himself any and all chances at fame and a better job. He was designated a wackadoo, crackpot, and abandoned by every self-reputable research team in the galaxy. No one knows where he is now, or what he's doing. Tobler was awoken from his reverie by the transmission from Union High Command. What he read in that order shocked and excited him. Return to the Keebler Void to make first contact with an unidentified vessel. Was this it? Did humanity somehow make it off that snowball? Or was this some other civilization that just happened to pass through? Tobler didn't know, but neither did he care. This could be the thing that catapults him into fame and glory regardless, the excitement of discovery and pioneering that he's spent years chasing. The GUV Breaking Dawn arrived in the proximity of Station Outpost Jublicon in 3 days. This ship is unimaginably fast. When it comes to long-distance travel, nothing beats a fold core. It would be at least a week before any civilian vessel potentially beelining for the outpost could get here. Perks of being so far from a jump gate. There would surely be pirates among these civilian vessels, so the outpost is on incredibly high alert. Thankfully, the Breaking Dawn's fold core also serves as a fairly distinct identifier. The moment its space bubble burst, the outpost knew that Union High Command had sent them. Commander Tobler reached out immediately. "Attention! Station Outpost Jublicon! This is Commander Tobler of the GUV Breaking Dawn. We're here to help." He ended his first communication in a prideful stance, confident that he sounded sufficiently cool and inspiring for a famous ship captain. Even if his time in the spotlight is in the past, he ignores the snickering of his bridge crew, who finds his desperation to relive his glory days amusing. The crackle of the outpost's commander silences them.
"Greetings, Commander Tobler. This is Commander Kilno of Station Outpost Jublicon. We hear you loud and clear. That fold core makes quite the racket. It'd be hard not to."
Bang in a bottle. Commander Kilno, ain't nothing like riding the lightning. Now, tell me what we've got on our hands here. What do your boys know about this unidentified vessel?
"Frankly, Commander,
Kilno begins.
not much. Things as silent as a grave, just meandering its way through deep space with what appears to be some kind of directed energy propulsion system. No idea what kind of energy. It's facing slightly towards us, so whatever it's pushing itself with is going in the other direction. We're hoping you might be able to help with that. And all the other things, of course."
Commander Kilno is struggling to contain his excitement. He was a private when Earth was first discovered. Commander Tobler is a hero to him, a role model. He's what inspired Kilno to pursue a command position instead of just getting his service over with like most in the military. This encounter to him is like a childhood dream, though technically he was far from a child when his service began. Understood, Commander Kilno. We're on it. I'll deploy one of the observation modules nearby so you can link up to it and have a real-time feed of the action via our entangled communication channels. Also, so that if something goes horribly wrong, you'll know immediately to tooth up. Tobler out, the commander of the Breaking Dawn said dramatically. It was all Kilno could do to not squee with excitement. He has an image to uphold, and the last thing he wants is to give Private Jocario a free viral video on the QNet. He watches in amazement as the GUV Breaking Dawn deploys one of its numerous observation modules, massive spheres jam-packed with high-end scientific equipment within a few hundred units of the station, and quickly orders his communications officer to link to its signal so they can get front-row seats to what could well be the most important first contact in Union history. It takes the Breaking Dawn all of a minute to get to within visual range. The unknown vessel is truly massive, dwarfing even the rather large Breaking Dawn by several times. It's practically the size of a bustling hab station. A crew for a vessel of this scale would outpopulate the vast majority of void-born habitation structures and most small settlements and colonies. If it were any larger, it'd rival the natural satellites of most planets, though Tobler mentally remarks, not even remotely close to Earth's natural satellite. The most interesting thing about it is its design. It's shaped like a sort of egg. The Dawn wraps around behind the vessel to get a look at its propulsion system, as Commander Kilno requested. It's some kind of directed photon beam, but unimaginably powerful, at least for a photon beam. The actual propulsion effect is minuscule, especially compared to the weight of the ship, but the beam is strong enough that it would vaporize any ship unlucky enough to cross its path within a light year or so of it. Past that, interference from cosmic background radiation and general gravitational fluctuations would disperse the beam enough that it'd just be like staring down a star that's pretty far away. In fact, if this thing were pointed at a planet, it would look like a star in their night sky. Besides that, it's smooth, incredibly smooth. No visual seams, except for the actual change in color of the hull, which creates bands of different shades of brown and gray. Along the side of the vessel appears to be a lexicograph, one which confirms Tobler's suspicions once it passes through the Dawn's AI databanks. That's a human language. However, the linguistics director aboard the Dawn contacts Tobler from his module on the far end of the ship.
Commander, according to the AI, although that is certainly a human language, it is not one that was recorded during the initial investigations of their culture.
The commander replies matter-of-factly. Linguistics drift, Director. It may have been 40 years for us, but those people live their lives more quickly than we do. They get a quarter of the time each day to be awake and spend 4 times as much time sleeping. They lose a third of their entire existence just to rest and barely live for a quarter of most species' averages. It makes sense that they develop language faster when there are 4 times as many generations of new minds to teach. But the linguistics director, Director Chobin, corrects himself.
No, Commander. I mean to say the computer believes this language is different, older to be specific. It contains roots that lead to all of the other languages in the database, following typical drift patterns, all of them, Commander. It's like some kind of mother tongue. Some drift further than others, much further, but nearly all of them can be linked to this one in some way. It's odd, too. The lexicographic on the vessel appears to be more or less complete. It's not a word, but an entire character list and a handful of key words. It's like they're trying to share it in analog rather than digitally. If I may chime in, Commander Tobler.
Diplomatic Director Laurel chimed in.
I believe this may be some kind of intentional contact vessel, a ship dedicated to the task of delivering cultural information to other species. It's possible that there may be some key within it to finding the world and people it came from. Though as to why they would send something like this instead of using an exploratory vessel like our own, I cannot say.
There is only one way to find out, Director Chobin. Fire an all-spectrum communications burst and then search for responses, Commander Tobler orders. Director Chobin does as ordered, and within moments he responds.
We have a response, Commander, but it appears automated. I'm running it through the translator now.
Give the output directly as it comes, the commander commands, and the director obeys as a semi-broken sequence of words, spoken in computerized monotone, sparks from the speakers on the bridge, and most every other module on the ship, as well as the one off of it.
Attention! Void flying boat. Do not interfere in the seeding. Death-making tools will utilize B.
Commander Tobler does not like the sound of that. Hopefully this is some kind of shipboard AI and not a truly automated message. Chobin, get me a line on that frequency. I want to see if we can talk to it, he requests.
With all due respect, Commander, it may interpret any further attempts at communication as...
Chobin begins. Now, Director, Tobler demands, and silently Chobin obeys. Attention! Unidentified vessel. This is the Galactic Union vessel Breaking Dawn. You have entered Galactic Union-controlled space. Identify yourself and stand down your armaments. We mean you no harm. He projects his voice in the booming, serious manner of a seasoned ship's captain. As Tobler hoped, a new message plays through the speakers. Already the AI translation software has improved markedly.
Words heard. Breaking Dawn. This vessel is seed ship number 4172 of the Human Seeding Project. Repeat, do not interfere in the seeding. Any attempts to board or access this vessel or alter its course will be interpreted as hostile actions and responded to in kind.
Tobler asks, somewhat confused. What is the seeding? We must know what exactly you're doing before we can decide our course of action.
The Human Seeding Project, created by the Human Federation of Galactic Sector 27A-4B, is humanity's final hope of survival against the...
The translation software fails miserably, spitting out a fuzzy sequence of seemingly random chirps, beeps, and noises that are utterly incomprehensible.
Threat. Humanity must evolve.
Apologies, Vessel 4172. The what threat? And what exactly are you doing as part of this project? Tobler presses further, ignoring all usual first contact protocols as he is far too intrigued by the unknown vessel's words and is beginning to suspect that they're from some kind of highly advanced artificial intelligence, given the strange way it speaks. Though, that could just be a consequence of the translation.
The threat is the enemy, anathema to all sentient survival, incommensurable, unstoppable, unyielding, immortal. If humanity is to survive, it must rise. This vessel seeks out suitably dangerous environments and plants the seed of human evolution, ensuring that humanity shall rise to face the threat. Time is short. Do not interfere.
Tobler is stunned. If this ship is to be believed, then Gerard was right all along. Humanity did evolve too fast, artificially fast, and this ship is the cause? Is it actively seeking out suitably dangerous environments? It's a colony ship, one operating on an unimaginable time scale. The Union's old drone ships, replaced some decades ago by fold-core-based engineering vessels, did operate on long time scales to get new jump gates built. But this colony ship is acting on a scale of not just centuries, but thousands upon thousands of years. It's not bringing colonists to new planets. It's making them. And it's making them on incredibly dangerous planets. But why haven't there been any other human species discovered? Why is the one in the Keebler Void the only one the Union has encountered? Why is it necessary for them to artificially evolve new instances of a species on dangerous planets? What is this threat? There are far too many questions to ask. Tobler asks again. Vessel 472, are there any humans aboard your ship right now I may speak with? It responds.
Negative. This vessel is fully autonomous and carries no traceable organic matter except for the seeds.
Tobler is stunned. This ship is commanded entirely by artificial intelligence, far more advanced than anything the Union has developed. It's astonishing. He must press further. How many planets have you seeded in this galaxy? What is the precise nature of the threat? Why is it so important to grow new species on dangerous planets? How do you even ensure that they all cooperate? Assuming they ever actually achieve spaceflight, none of this makes any sense. There's silence for a moment before the response comes.
This galaxy is currently far from the threat, and this vessel has identified only two suitable worlds for human evolution. One has been seeded. This vessel is en route to the other. The threat is anathema. It extinguishes the spark of life from all it sees. It will come for you. All life must evolve to survive. To evolve, adversity is required. It is through adversity that an evolved humanity shall rise to face the threat. Humanity does not need unity. No matter their origins, diversity and adversity shall draw them together inextricably. The beacon is lit, and all shall answer its call when they are ready.
Tobler takes a few moments to take this all in. So, there are other human civilizations out there in other galaxies, all of them fighting some kind of ridiculous scale intergalactic war against an existential threat to all life. A war so long in the making that they saw fit to create ships capable of causing their own species to evolve on basically any life-sustaining planet, intentionally seeking out dangerous ones, explicitly to create a version of their species that is tougher and better suited for war. But why? Clearly this threat is slow enough that even this unimaginably slow vessel could run from it. At evolutionary timescales, they could use this galaxy, or any other really, as some kind of base of operations to build up from. Why go through all the effort of relying on something as slow as evolution? Why bank the fate of your entire species on that? We do not understand. If this galaxy is far from the threat and it takes hundreds of thousands of years to evolve, why not just run far enough away and use the time to build weapons instead? Why is it so important to force evolution? Tobler inquires, desperate for an answer. The vessel responds quickly this time.
Speed is the enemy. They can smell travel. There is safety in slowness, in solitude. The forest is dark and quiet, and your vessel travels with its lanterns lit.
It beckons them to this place. This galaxy will soon be unsuitable for seeding, but this vessel must complete its mission regardless. The human seeding project is the final hope. Humanity must evolve. Do not interfere, fledgling race. Your doom fast approaches, and there is nowhere for you to run, evolve, or die.
Tobler cut off the transmission, his face now grave and mortified. That ship, the lantern it spoke of, it clearly refers to the Fold Core. This existential threat it can detect the usage of Fold Core drives, or maybe any kind of FTL for that matter. Given that there were no humans aboard, and any attempt to board or physically touch the vessel would be met with violence, Tobler retreated his vessel and filed a report to Union High Command. They'd send a dedicated intermediary ship out here to ask the vessel more questions, but it never answered again. The Galactic Union High Council spent the next several years debating its transmission. There were some attempts by independent parties and pirates to interfere with the vessel. All of them were met by weaponry more deadly and advanced than anyone could imagine. Weapons that bent the fabric of reality itself, and any vessels along with it. Swarms of nanoscale drones traveling at fractions of light speed, carrying enough kinetic energy to spark instantaneous fusion in anything they impacted. Artificial organisms that ate through metal and plastic like hyperspeed acid and caused unimaginably horrifying illnesses in any soul unlucky enough to touch it. It became clear to those in the know that this threat the ship spoke of is truly monstrous. For what kind of threat exists that such weapons cannot defeat? But while they were all busy arguing and discussing, redirecting the full force of the galactic economy towards weapons development, and preparing to face some immense, unknowable foe that could arrive in a handful of centuries, or even millennia given the timescale this autonomous ship was operating on, none noticed that it had been nearly a month since the GUV Deep Voyage, the Breaking Dawn's sister ship, which had departed for a neighboring galaxy as part of its maiden voyage, was slated to return to communications range. None noticed when a particularly dim star at the far edge of the galactic rim dimmed and vanished.